This is Caffeinated Risk, the podcast for security professionals by security professionals. Here are your two self-proclaimed grumpy security guys, Tim McCreet and Doug Leese.
Welcome, folks, to Season 4 of Caffeinated Risk. For our next podcast, we chat with Radek Havlis, Vice President of Business Resilience and Chief Security Officer at O2 Telefonica Germany, one of the largest ICT companies in Germany and Europe. With almost 25 years of experience in enterprise security and business continuity, Radek helps organizations manage risks and achieve resilience in complex multinational environments. He leads an integrated division of over 100 professionals in cybersecurity, corporate security, and crisis and business continuity management, reporting to the executive board. Radek holds 2 university master's degrees, one in law and legal science, and the second in business administration. He also holds several prestigious credentials, including project management professional, certified information security manager, certified protection professional, chartered security professional, and fellow of the Security Institute of the United Kingdom. Radek is also a former global and European board member of ASIS International, the world's largest association for security professionals. And now, let's check out our latest podcast with Radek Havlis. Thanks, Radek, for joining us on the show today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. So I know it's taken us a bit of time to get this set up, so we appreciate your time and your patience. But I really want to start with a question we've asked a lot of our guests, but one I think it would be cool if our audience heard is, how did you get started in security? How did you pick security as your career path?
It's actually interesting because when I was thinking about if I chose this profession or this career path, or whether this career path chose me, I think it was a little bit of a mixture of both. I studied law and legal science, but pretty much shortly after my graduation and military service, I joined a telecommunications company where I started as a lawyer in a customer service department. I was supporting customer service department. But a bit less than in a year, my colleague and future boss and friend of mine approached me and offered me if I was willing to join his newly formed security department and take over responsibilities for liaison with law enforcement authorities, internal investigations, and lawful interception. So, I found it appealing, interesting, attractive, as opposed to checking on customer complaints and responding customer complaints. So I said yes. So I guess, as I said, something in between. The career path somewhat chose me, and I didn't resist.
Gotcha. Awesome. Well, so now I actually do want to ask how. Can you let our listeners know where we first met and then how we started getting engaged with enterprise security risk management? Because that's a bit of a story, but it goes back a few years, right?
It does. Yeah. We met at the global board of ASIS International.
Yep.
That is already quite a number of years. Yes, it was at a time when actually the ASIS International board recognized that there is a need for change in the industry. Exciting times. And that was also the first time when the topic of ESRM became a part of the agenda.
Absolutely. I think 2015, we did the strategic plan for it. And then 2016 was the first time we actually saw ESRM come up as identified as a foundational component of ASIS International, and Dave Davies signed off on that letter. So yeah, we started working on that together from 2016 onwards with Rochelle Lawyer and Amy Poole and a few other folks. But yeah, that was quite the team. I think I lost count of how many times we've gone to the same conferences or sat in sessions or spoke about ESRM or trained it. But I wanted to ask, from your perspective, how have you seen the value of ESRM grow these past 8 or 9 years?
Well, I can certainly speak primarily based on my own experience, and I think that what ESRM brought to me and to my professional career and my way or my, let's say, understanding of the role of security in an organization is that I got the theoretical background, the solid background I needed for actually selling the program to our leadership.
Yeah.
I strongly believe that ESRM is the fundamental basis of designing a sound, and I mean by sound, I mean effective and efficient security program. Because you clearly, without having a clear visibility of organizational assets and risks to those that are expressed in monetary values, impact values, which is exactly the language of the organization. The language of the organization is cash, and always will be. I mean, we are not a non-profit organization. We are here to generate profit. So the mitigation measures, if you don't have this, mitigation measures or any security controls are basically just a bunch of random activities and controls that often lead, in my opinion, again, to a meaningless cash out in terms of maybe purchasing expensive solutions you may not even necessarily need.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, I think that that really helped a lot, and applying ESRM in my understanding is also exercising a proper due care to organization shareholders by demonstrating the expenditures into the program are justified.
Yeah, I want to pull on that a little bit. I seem to be having a lot of talks about that in my day job recently as well. When we look at an organization, in many cases, they're not really thinking of risk. Better said, they're thinking about it in the very common 5x5 matrix sort of thing. And it's really hard to make that traceable back to something that's been observed in the organization or observed in your industry. And so, the way you're explaining it, if I'm understanding it correctly, you've been able to use this risk management approach to define some traceability and actually demonstrate, if we don't take the following measures, this is what it could cost us, and the probability is X kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, there are multiple components.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The good thing is that we have an ERM program in place.
Right. We
have a risk management function, and the risk management function is responsible for actually documenting and monitoring all risk. Security and non-security, pure risk, security risk. So we have already a good starting point there, because there is a number of risks that are immediately connected to our ESRM and security program. That's number one. Number two, very often many security professionals hear is that nothing has happened so far, so why should we care?
Exactly.
For that, there are multiple information sources you can use. There are different sorts of reports. You've got the Verizon report. You've got the IBM cost of data breach report. You've got multiple built-ins and annual reports. Now, we, for instance, also use the state of IT security in Germany, for instance, which is a report that is published by the Federal Authority for Information Security. So there are multiple information sources that you can use, and use the numbers, use the value, and basically also then sort of adjust based on that, adjust also in your heat map the likelihood and impact of particular risk. And then, of course, if you use this argumentation and these sources that are already out there, that it is really difficult to challenge that.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like your organization is not only risk aware, but it's a priority for the people that are running the company. And do you think that might be in part because of significant regulation in Europe, like GDPR?
That does contribute to it, definitely. Lately, in the past years, there was a lot of news and a lot of noise about different sorts of regulations. You mentioned GDPR.
Now, it's not the only one, though, but it's the big one. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. That helped a lot. And you also have now the upcoming European AI Act.
Right.
We have the NIS2 directive. Another one that is coming up and to be implemented is the so-called Digital Operational Resilience Act, also a European act. So all these help significantly to improve resiliency of businesses and security posture. And also, as long as it is a legal must, then of course it gives you additional argumentation you can use for defending security expenditures and your resource demand. So absolutely, it does help a lot.
Now, since your beginnings were as a lawyer, and you've obviously read all these, do you think there's enough in there that a company could take what's there and just build, or are they going to need somebody knowledgeable like yourself to interpret that and say, here's how you input this? Because they're not typically a paint by numbers kind of thing, right? There's a lot of nuance in these words.
Absolutely. And this is, I think that's very similar to the Sarbanes-Oxley Act. You know, it's also like you've got general statements that you need to have this or that in place, supported by corresponding evidence, how you are actually going to implement that requirement, and what sort of evidence will you document, respectively collect, and how you are going to collect it. That requires an implementation support.
Right.
So as much as in the cases I've mentioned, SOX years ago, these regulations are not checklists per se.
Right. And I think that's key, right? Is that it's the interpretation of it, and then being able to apply that within your organization and within your team. Because I wanted to ask, over this past year, you've been busy with your team designing and implementing a new approach. I really wanted to get you to talk about that a little bit, because it was a great notice you put on LinkedIn about the work that you've done and the anniversaries that you folks have found. But can you talk about what you designed for your organization and how you went about it? Because I think this is such a cool approach for folks to hear. We really want to ask you about that.
Yeah. Well, how I designed it, how we designed it, because it was certainly a team effort. Well, maybe before I address that question, to set the scene a little, our organization about 2.5 years ago had different security functions distributed all across the company. So cybersecurity being a part of technology, corporate security, or some parts of corporate security sitting with legal and corporate affairs, some part of operational physical security as parts sitting with the finance department, and so on and so forth. Fraud management, finance department as well. So we need to integrate, and decided to bring all those functions under one umbrella and carve out actually cybersecurity out of technology and place this, I would say, bunch of very heterogeneous functions under one security department. And that was the situation I was brought in. So first and foremost, we had quite some cultural challenges, as you can imagine, traditional rivalry between corporate and cybersecurity. So my first task actually was not to build an ESRM program, but to create a winning team. And a part of this endeavor, therefore, the key part of this endeavor was mainly about leadership, change management, and communication. So basically, in the first place, to surround myself with a like-minded leadership team and start working on tearing down existing silos. And one of the first questions, of course, when we asked ourselves was, and I like Simon Sinek, okay, so I might cite him a couple of times now. Start with why, right? You know, what was our purpose, you know, and to bring really this team together and to establish that one security culture, that we all are in it together and we complement on each other, and no part is more important than the other, but we all are a part of a homogeneous security program, or we want to build a homogeneous security program and have a common strategy that needed first to establish that common identity. So We came up with the purpose that we enable the business to operate, so that's the now, and grow, that's the future, in a resilient, and now there comes the key word, risk-aware manner. So a part of our purpose already contains the word risk.
Wow.
And I do remember how I was stared at when I told my new team that it is not our job to protect the organization at any cost. That our job is a job of a strategic risk advisor.
Wow.
That we do assess risk, that we come up with mitigation options, what solutions, and only then, and that's the part of protection or being, on the defense protection side, only then execute this on decisions that are made, but that are not made by us, but by the business, meaning also risk owners.
Mm-hmm.
And all that in a continuous life cycle, of course, of continuously reassessing residual risk. But I have to also admit that mindset change, that security never owns all security risks, was, and I do have to admit that it still is the hardest part. And it does apply actually to both, to my team, but also to our business leadership. Who need to be taught that they cannot outsource their own liability.
Yeah.
So that's that took some time still, and it sometimes does take time. And I think that it's also maybe connected with or connected to the fact that if we do our job right, it's usually not really seen in an organization. As opposed to if there is an incident, then of course security is actually the agenda, becomes the agenda. I think that's that perception of some of the security professionals, or not perception, but that feeling, to see my name written next to a big risk with a massive impact,
right,
is a kind of like, makes me more important, but that should not be the case. That should never be the case. And it's really difficult sometimes to convince our own people, no, you do not own the risk. It's not you who is the risk owner.
Mm-hmm.
You alluded to the cultural thing, and I wonder if I can just pull on that without disclosing too much.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure since its inception, there's been a couple of events where there was a risk, something that was untreated that led to an incident. And the group that's responsible for that often gets amnesia around this time. But the risk register, of course, helps say, no, that was your risk.
Yeah.
Has it changed? Have we had people, instead of defending why it's not their problem, they're now, yeah, that was actually us, and we've got a plan on that? Like, has there been a shift organizationally? And if you succeeded in that, how did you do it?
Yeah.
Because that seems to be the big barrier, is everybody talks like, yeah, that's mine, until it actually goes wrong. And then they're looking for
somebody else,
a reason why it doesn't apply to them somehow.
Yeah. I think we benefit to a large extent also from our culture. We have a very strong team spirit in our organization.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, we use one of our, the leading claim. We didn't start about, I didn't mention that. I work for O2 Telefonica Germany, which is one of the largest German and European telecommunication companies. And we run multiple brands, primarily focused on a mobile customer segment. And our strongest brand is O2. And we have that claim connected with that O2, and that is can do.
Uh-huh.
So we can do, and that strong can-do spirit is, I think, an underlying part of our culture that also helps teams to work closely together, and then to really realize that we are all in it together, and if things go south, the company will suffer. when it comes to such fundamental topics like critical vulnerabilities, then we pull the railroad in the same direction.
I wanted to ask, like, over time, Radek, have you seen changes, right? Like, have you actually watched how, as you spent time communicating or sharing stories with them or trying to measure the value of your program over the last year or 2 years, have you seen, and has your team seen this changes in the people who may not have had, the greatest support for the program, but if they're supporters for it now, has your team actually watched that progression from not being an evangelist to now talking about you in the room in a nice way to support your program? Like, how has your team been able to see that change over the last year or the last couple of years?
I think that's actually a very good timing question, because we have on a quarterly basis, we have a communication concept which is called Tower Talk. Okay, our headquarters is in Munich, and it is a high-rise building, so it is a tower. It's actually the biggest or the tallest building in Bavaria, and just today we had in the Tower Talk representatives from different functions, technology, customer service, and sales, and also one of my managers talking about business resilience and enterprise security risk management, together with board members, with our CEO.
Wow.
So that answers your question of how much visibility and change actually we experienced over the past 2 years, starting basically from the scratch of not being seen, not being recognized, not being even perceived as a partner sometimes, but rather as an inhibitor actually towards where we are now after 24 months. So yeah, that we can clearly see it, and the feedback we keep receiving from different parts of our organization, but also from our own teams and our own employees within our business resilience division, because we also run regular employee experience surveys. We clearly see that there is a very positive trend. Yeah.
Wow, I'm just impressed that it's the focus on the human side of this is something that we haven't heard in a long, long time, and I think. Doug made mention of it. I think it's very true, is that if we spent more time as security professionals focusing on the human side.
Yes.
And understanding that everything we're doing in a program actually does impact the humans that come to work every day. And how can you make it more understandable, that they can appreciate it, they can embrace it, they can find the human part of it. I think that's such a cool way that you've structured this program, Radek. So that's just congrats to you and the team for doing that.
Yeah. As I said, it was a team effort, and it's then fun also, to get up every morning, and you really look forward to the day, and you've got some exciting topics. Of course, there always comes every now and then an escalation or a conflict, which is a normal part. It's a part of normal life, conflict management, and people are people, but. When you have most of the time that feeling that what you do does bring value to the organization and to the business, and the organization actually does appreciate it, that creates very, very good positive feelings, and it's then fun to go to work.
Can I ask, Radek, where do you see, like in the next maybe 5 years, maybe even 10, where do you see the changes you've put in today for your program? Because as ESRM changes, and we know there's always new iterations or new ways of adapting the framework.
Okay. Well, as you always did say, and I know, and I remember your words very well. You said that ESRM is a philosophy.
Yes.
It's not necessarily a program. You can translate that philosophy into a particular program, which is exactly what we did. But in the first place, it is a philosophy you need to tune your mindset to. And yes, do philosophies evolve? They do, of course. But to be honest, I don't think that anything significant will happen in the next 5 to 10 years. And the reason is, look at the big bang of security convergence back in 2010 and what it actually led to. I mean, we all remember the white paper produced by PwC about converging security risks and therefore the need for organization to converge their functions. At the end of the day, I think that it was a missed opportunity for our industry to really take it seriously and to do some fundamental changes. In some companies, it led to converging physical and logical access control.
Right.
And that was it.
Right. Yeah.
But they completely misunderstood the concept of convergence. So when it comes to ESRM, I rather tend to thinking that at some point, and I'm not sure if it is going to be in the next 5 to 10 years, but at some point, the term may even cease to exist, as it will become the one and only globally recognized underlying basis of any security program. It will not be the best guess of the experienced security guy. It will simply be the underlying fundamental basis of any program to first think about risk and vulnerabilities and what it means in terms of impact to the organization to make informed decisions. And then basically now looping back to what I said at the very beginning about the role of security in an organization, being primarily a strategic security risk advisor. But I do believe what will change significantly is backgrounds of security leaders. I mean, it's undeniable that technology dictates development needs and trends. So more technology-savvy leaders will take over the helm. But also soon the boomers generation, and later on, let's say in the next 10 to 15 years, also the 9/11 Generation X retiring.
Yeah. No, and I'm so happy to hear that, right? Because that's one of the things that, as I look back now, we've been working on ESRM. I've been looking at it since 2005, right? And to come this far and to see the changes, it's, to me, to see the success that you've had, right? And what you've put into place and others being able to copy what you're doing. I think I lost count of how many people I've sent your way to talk to you about all the different things you've done in your organization, which is fantastic. But I hope, you know what, I'm with you. I think there will be a point in time where we won't need to put or preface it with ESRM. It's just going to be the security methodology or the security, what's the security framework you're putting into place? Or
framework. Yeah.
Can I put, how is your framework working and can you compare it against others? Because you're right. I think the philosophy of becoming a trusted advisor, focusing on the business goals and objectives and identifying risk and letting the business make that decision, I don't know that fundamentally is ever going to change, because I think the structure and how we do it will, but I don't know that philosophy, and I'll be honest, I don't know if I want it to change, because it makes the most sense for us. We've been buried for so long in other parts of companies, other divisions where we weren't given the same audience that you have. And now to hear the success that you've had, that you're not even in the room with the board of directors or with executives, and they're still talking about the program that you've designed. That's perfect.
Really appreciate your input and insight. Like, this has been fascinating for me.
Thank you so much.
Same here, Radek. I've just been impressed, right? Just to see all the stuff that you've done, all of what you've gone through and the steps that you've taken, and the very human approach you took to putting this program in place. I just want to thank you. Like, you've done awesome work. So thank you for all of it, Radek.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for the opportunity to join your podcast and for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks for listening to the latest podcast from Caffeinated Risk. Make sure you visit our website, caffeinatedrisk.com, to stay up to date on what we've been working on. Our website has bios of our podcast guests, posts about topics we're passionate about, and even a library of reference material we find valuable in the work we do every day. And don't forget to subscribe to Caffeinated Risk on your favorite podcast service. This way, you'll be notified when we release our next podcast, and you can listen to our previous guests just in case you missed them. Thanks so much for listening to Caffeinated Risk.